If you're feeling confused or overwhelmed about buying or selling or maybe buying an investment property in 2025, you're in the right place. A recent article on Housing Wired breaks down 5 major contradictions. I'm going to break this article down one by one. And I'm going to give you exactly what you need to do in spite of those contradictions, line by line, to be successful in 2025. My name is Kevin Polakovich. I've been in the mortgage industry for over 22 years. In addition to that, I own 300 rental properties, and I love helping people make great real estate decisions, and I love to be a tool for people just like you. Before I even get into it, I would ask you this. If you found this information helpful, please click subscribe so we can work together in the future. Let's get into it with the first contradiction. High interest rates, mortgage interest rates, versus Fed rate cuts. In spite of the Fed cutting short-term interest rates, mortgage rates are still remaining stubbornly high. The Fed does not control mortgage rates because the secondary market controls mortgage rates. Different periods of time when money moves in and out of different markets, rates will come up and rates will come down. The closest indicator of mortgage rates that most people can see on a daily basis is the 10-year Treasury. The 10-year Treasury has historically moved up and moved down with 30-year mortgage rates. The Fed cutting rates immediately had a drop on 10-year Treasury that has changed in the last several months. 10-year Treasury is a great number for most consumers to look at and expect mortgage rates to move with that 10-year Treasury. Higher rates ultimately are going to affect buyers' ability to pay. What can they qualify for? Certain parts of the country, it dramatically affects the maximum ability that some buyers can afford to buy a home. Many markets, buyers were already strapped when interest rates were 3 and 4%. They were at their maximum in what they could buy. As interest rates have come up, that's impeded some buyers in some higher price markets from even getting in. In other parts of the country, it has meant simply a higher mortgage payment, one that someone could afford, but was costing more of your discretionary income every single month to buy a typical home. Some buyers have moved to smaller home prices. Some buyers have moved to different areas. Some buyers move out of major metropolitan areas where maybe they'll find better pricing in rural areas. Some buyers have even moved completely to different parts of the country because they can afford a home and they can do their job remote. I think that a lot of buyers are waiting for lower interest rates, and what is going to come with lower interest rates is higher demand and more competition. If you were to wait to buy a home, waiting for, let's say, interest rates to come down a little bit, most experts believe we're going to continue to see appreciation of current homes throughout the United States. See numbers at 5%, 7%, 10%. So while you may get a lower interest rate 12 months, 18 months, 24 months from now, you're likely going to pay a higher price point for that home. 5%, 7%, 10%. Compound that over a couple years, it adds up to some real money. My recommendation is that most buyers that are truly interested in buying or considering buying look aggressively right now, regardless of interest rate. The higher the rate, less competition. Less competition means to a better price. A better price to lock in what you actually bought that home for. That price will be locked in. The price that you paid for that home will never change. Working with a great mortgage professional, your mortgage rate will also be locked in a rate that will never go up. It can change, and it's up to you when you want to change it, if and when interest rates come down. So simply thinking rates a little bit higher, lock in a purchase price. That purchase price and that home value goes up. Years from now, interest rates come down. You're grabbing that appreciation potential to lower the payment in the future. In addition, in working with a mortgage professional, you're going to be able to buy a house that meets your criteria. You can truly afford it. You can afford it at this number, or they wouldn't let you buy it. You now have additional equity, lower payment, locking in that house gain long term. Along with that, I'd also talk about You don't have to find the perfect house. I've been married for 28 years and we've been in 7 forever houses. Figure that, 7 forever houses. We've never been in place for more than 5 years. Using that strategy of finding something, it doesn't have to be perfect. Get in, build equity, refinance if and when interest rates come down. Also look at selling. Take that equity that you built up in that property and use that on a down payment for your next forever house. Hey, if you're enjoying this so far and you want to get in my newsletter, I'm not going to spam you. I'm not going to blow you up, but I'm going to send you some good content monthly about buying, about selling, about investing, about everything mortgage and real estate related. Look forward to getting to know you better. Click the link to the newsletter below. Let's get back to the video. That's our first contradiction. Fed rates, Fed cuts, mortgage rates. The second contradiction, the second piece to talk about is renting versus buying. So there's seasons for everything in renting and buying. I've always been biased towards being a homeowner, and it was a piece for me to buy something as soon as I could. And that first house at 22 years old at $70,000, 30 years later is worth $270,000. And I could tell you the same story on every house I've ever owned. I think that that's going to continue. I think that owning is part of the American dream, and it's a foundation for building long-term wealth. It's not obtainable for everyone, but if it is obtainable for you, I think it's really important to look at as a foundation. The appreciation, the building wealth, the satisfaction of owning something and being a homeowner is great, and it's tough to put a monetary value on it. But again, there's seasons in life. There's seasons in life to rent. My kids right now at 22, 23 years old, I think they're in a great season to rent right now. I think they'll be moving into the season to buy in the coming years. It's a piece that you need to look at what works best for you. I am very biased towards owning part of the American dream and owning your home. In helping to identify the right season in the season that you're in, I think you look at a variety of things. I think the first piece would be income. What should happen in your career is you will likely continue to earn more money as you get older. If you're younger and you don't have a lot of income right now, there's not a lot of discretionary income, you're struggling to pay rent with a couple roommates, you're not quite there yet, it's not the time for you. If you're not sure that you're going to be in the market that you're in longer than the next 2-3 years, maybe that's not the right time for you as well. I think there's a variety of pieces that go into it. There are definitely advantages, but it's finding the season for you. The next contradiction is the great difference in disparities in house pricing throughout the country. So much real estate is local. I have friends whose kids are moving out of states like California because they can't see them ever being able to own a home in California. And these are kids that are professional and heading in a professional career in parts of California. They never see themselves as being able to own a home. In areas of Florida, you see house prices in one of the rare markets that house prices are coming down. One of the reasons are big insurance costs, some overbuilding in some different areas. Other parts of the country, you're seeing inventory come up slightly. You see levels about where they were in 2019, where it's a little bit more balanced, not a full balance. Full balance market has to do with the number of sellers and the number of buyers. But you're seeing inventory come up a little bit. When inventory comes up a little bit, it allows a buyer to negotiate to get the best deal possible. So all this is regional, and finding a real estate professional is going to help you navigate some of those issues. Another contradiction, it's a seller's market still, but it's a little bit more difficult to sell than it was a short period ago. Sellers are facing a few more challenges than they have, and probably had a little bit to do with the little of irrational exuberance that sellers were putting their houses up at these very high numbers as related to what home prices have typically sold in areas, higher numbers than what they were, getting multiple offers in a very short period of time. So those expectations with many sellers are, I'm going to put my house up, it's going to sell for above asking price, and it's going to do it in 72 hours. That's a little bit crazy. Houses are still selling. 30 days, 45 days, 60 days. As those houses sit out a little bit, sellers' irrational exuberance comes down a little bit, and they get a little bit better idea of what the right number is. The market will speak when we have a seller and we have a buyer. Seller wants to have an inflated price. Buyer says no. Buyer says, I can look at this house or this house or this house. That seller comes down a little bit. So it's still a seller's market. And to be honest with you, the free market economy is working in many parts of the country because sellers aren't getting those exorbitant prices. They're coming back to reality, and they're sitting in the market a little bit longer, which is better for buyers in the long run. A couple examples would be 20, 21, 22, where in a market that I do a lot of business in, a house may go up for sale for $400,000 and literally have 60 showings in 48 hours and sell $50,000 above that $400,000 price point just a couple years ago. The reason why: shortage of housing, increased demand, low interest rate, a variety of things feeding into it. Low interest rate, low supply, very high demand. Right now, as we move into a market, higher interest rates, house prices that have still held those values continue to appreciate, but not getting 60 offers in 24 hours. That house is still going to sell. It might take 45 days. It might take 30 days. It might be 2 or 3 offers, and it might sell for $5,000 below the asking price. It's a great example of a balanced market. Sellers, buyers, interest rates come down. House prices do not continue to appreciate as fast as they were, which is healthy and which is good in the long term. Those are 5 of the contradictions right now that I see that you need to navigate as a home buyer or a home seller. Before I let you go, I want to debunk a few myths as we head into 2025. Myth number 1, the Fed cutting interest rates is guaranteed to bring down mortgage rates. It just isn't accurate. In the long term, we are heading into an environment of interest rates coming down. It will not be directly correlated with Fed rate cuts. That said, most experts believe that mortgage rates will follow lower interest rate environment in time. The 10-year Treasury is a great tool for a typical potential buyer or seller to look at on a daily basis and where long-term mortgage rates are going. A tactical piece I would give you related to this is if it's right for you to move, if it's right for you to sell, if it's right for you to buy, make interest rates this much of your decision. It really is a shorter term piece because we should see lower interest rates over a longer period of time. I do expect to see home values continue to go up. If you're selling a lower priced home, you might get a little bit less for it today, but you're going to be able to get a higher priced home for a lower price as well. 5% in a lower price house compared to 5% in a higher price home. The interest rate can always come down in the future if interest rates come down, as most experts believe in the long run. The second myth is waiting for the election, the uncertainty of the election. The election has come and gone. An election shouldn't affect your long-term decision on what you're going to look at doing for you, your family, yourself, your long-term being, and where you want to be. There's periods of time where inventory comes up and inventory comes down. Rates come up and rates come down. Look at long-term cycles. I will tell you, if you look back an election from 4 years ago, 8 years ago, 12 years ago, 16 years ago, you forget the days that happened after that election, but you would never forget making a move and building equity and finding a home that you truly love and where you want to be long-term. If you found that helpful at all and you'd like to speak to me direct, please click the link. If you know someone else that's looking for a true professional to help them navigate home buying, home selling, refinancing, making long-term decisions with a true professional, I'd be honored. Click a link, schedule time to meet with me personally.